My name's Ira Kirschenbaum. I am the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Journal for Orthopedic Experience and Innovation. Tonight we have a long overdue and very important topic session, what makes a great ortho rep? And right now online we have almost 60 people, and all 60 probably are great ortho reps. No, sorry, I'll take myself out. 59 are really great. I'm going to share my screen for a second because I want to share some interesting things that are going on in the world of JOEI. This is the Journal of Orthopedic Experience. People have seen it, which is very nice and visual. A lot of new stuff, a new article by Mark Levine. But I really want to point out two things. One is our publishing analytics. This is the last 30 days. 1 year ago, we had 13,400 views a month. We're now up to 67,000 page views a month and 38,000 unique visitors. Either that means I have a lot of cousins or we're doing something different and we're hitting a chord. And I want to thank Erica, Lara, and Beth, who have been the driving force behind my driving force of making JOEI what it is. A most important thing I want to talk about, though, is this new thing we have called JOEI Expert Connect. And I invite all of you as reps, ortho reps, to be JOEI experts, because what this is going to be, this is a group of people that we've already gotten 30 people signed up to be JOEI experts. We have industry interested in having closed focus groups with various people. And if you go onto the website, JOEI Expert Connect, and you just click Become an Expert for Us, you go like that and comes up with this form. And one of the choices is orthopedic medical device representative, because we may have clients who want to speak to expert orthopedic medical device reps. We don't know what our client's going to want. We already have a couple of clients, and one signed and a couple more in the works. What's good about this is you will, once you sign up to JOEI Expert Connect, you would get a more detailed email back to give us some more information. And part of that is to tell us how much you want to make per hour. And it could be a very good source of some income for you, but more importantly, some interaction, because we always felt that JOEI is a connector. We're not only a publisher, but we connect the orthopedic industry. So I'll stop that share. And I will first of all have our panelists tonight. The panelists were chose because I just happen to see them a lot on LinkedIn. I don't want to insult anyone who is not chosen as a panelist, because everyone's a panelist, because this is an open mic session. So if you have a question, you can, if Patrick's talking, you can interrupt him, of course, but anybody else, I would prefer you to put it in the comments, and then I will call on you and you'll video yourself and you'll ask your question. So I'd like to start off with the panelists tonight, introducing yourself. Tell us whatever you want to say. Omar, we'll start with you.
Great, fantastic. Well, hi everybody. My name is Omar Khateeb. Been a long time in the industry. Started off as a rep in the world's first robotic spine company, which is Mazor Robotics. After spending a couple of years doing that, I moved into marketing. In the last 10 or 12 odd years, I've worked in a variety of different device companies at a marketing and commercial level. And now I'm an entrepreneur. I started my own business. So my company helps medtech companies essentially grow their sales pipeline and attract investors using social media. And then many of you know me from my podcast, The State of MedTech. And been a long time fan and supporter of JOEI. And so Ira, congratulations to you and the team, especially being in the digital world. I know how hard it is to get those numbers up. So that's phenomenal growth.
Yeah, thank you. Bryan, let's hear from you, Bryan Tarrolly.
Yeah, hi. Bryan Tarrolly. I'm in Minnesota. I've been in the business now 32 years, hard to believe. And my introduction could be really, really long. I'll make it very, very short. I am a distributor owner and run a distributorship with a number of unique and differentiated products. And I've had quite a run over the last 32 years, and I'm honored to be a panelist on this discussion. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott Lyon.
Yeah, Scott Lyon over from the suburbs of Chicago up into southern Wisconsin a little bit. Started off my career with one of the big box companies with Zimmer and took a little swing with Conformis, then back to Zimmer, and then was lucky enough to venture off and start my own distributorship in 2016 with Corin and kind of just it's evolved over the years. And a big part of that has been Stu Brandon and Andrew Kaiser are my two business partners, where I kind of started up the whole rep freedom thing with trying to be independent medical device brokers and really catering solutions to our customers rather than trying to find customers for the products that we carry.
Excellent. And Kevin Brown, you around there?
Here we are.
All right.
Thank you, Ira. It's just an honor and a privilege. I just want to say that right off the bat to be a part of this event and associated with anything that you're doing or Joey's doing. Just amazing results, seeing the trajectory with that. I've been in this space for 30 years, very passionate about it as a rep with Zimmer, and then on to an independent distributorship, and then on to my current hybrid role with Crosslink as still a rep in the room, but working in a business development management context, which is super exciting. And all along the passion and Device Nation podcast in the middle of all that, which is there just to support the industry side, and the reps in the field just have a real passion for what they're doing. And we're here in Grapevine launching the first breakfast to honor what they're doing and to tell them what they're doing is important, and bringing some surgeons along to tell them what they could be doing differently next year to get their game up with all these changes facing everybody, surgeons and reps. So super excited about that.
All right. Excellent. And I want to repeat, if anyone has questions or they want to sort of say something, just put it in the chat. I'll call on you almost immediately. I'm going to share my screen for a second, and I am going to hold on. There we go. Joey the Journal. Pittsburgh Steelers colors for no apparent reason. All right. So let me ask the panel the first question. Give me one trait in your mind, one trait that makes a great ortho rep. Okay. One trait. I'll stop the share right now. Who wants to go first? Yeah, just one trait that you could think.
I got something very simple.
Yep.
That it's not only for ortho reps, but something that I appreciate with all the surgeon customers and everybody I deal with in the day to day. And that's basically, if you say you're going to do something, do it. It's just very simple, but it's if I ever say I'm going to send some information or an email or do something, but I don't get it done by a certain day, and I know I didn't, in my reply, I admit to that fact, send them what I was going to send them, and then hold myself accountable. And it's just something that's kind of underappreciated, but super important in my opinion.
Right. Okay. Bryan, what do you think? Push on a spot.
Yeah. I've been giving some thought to this one. I think for me personally, it's more of a life, sort of a life goal, if you will. But I think if you wake up every day and you feel like you feel like you should be serving others, I think it's a very good trait for sales reps to have, because surgeons are our customers, but our selling wheel and the people that we interact with, there's so many of them, whether it's the scrub tech, whether it's your circulator, whether it's the ASC administrator. And I think if you would approach each day with kind of the attitude of serving others, whether it is the surgeon or all of those other people, I think that you'll be on the right path every day, and that'll kind of guide your direction. So I think that's a really important trait for reps to have, and not just think about being a rep for being in it for themselves, but really to serve others.
Kevin, what do you think?
That's a great question, Ira. I think that I look at it this way. Learning to play the electric guitar, there's been moments along that journey where I've had to take an honest look at what I was doing and realizing I was doing it completely wrong, and I had to embrace a whole new way. Same thing with marriage, right? There's been moments when I realized, you know what, I'm doing this completely wrong on this subject or that, and I need to switch gears and go a different route and approach this a different way. So I think coming to this job, that same mindset, I think the one word that is the most important element for a device rep or just life in general is humility. Can anybody speak into your life? Can they tell you you're going the wrong way? Can you look in the mirror and acknowledge that you're going the wrong way? And that's hard because we all think we're humble, right? Um, but having that self-awareness and surrounding yourself with people that can help you on that journey, and being willing to pivot when you're just not doing the right thing. I think that's huge. You can teach anybody all the technical stuff about this job. That's the easy part, but the people part of it requires humility because, you know, are you coachable? Can you be told that you said the wrong thing in this context, or that you said the wrong thing in this group of people, and that it's okay? I want to hear that feedback. You know, that's challenging.
Okay, Omar?
Yeah, so gave this a lot of thought, and I really like to think about first principles on this in terms of like what's like one thing, which I like that you picked the one thing, right? And I want to walk you through like a couple things I thought of and then what I landed on. And at first I thought it was like discipline's very important, but you know, I felt like that's kind of common, right? That people understand that. Another one is intellectual curiosity. I feel like a lot of reps these days not intellectually curious in the sense that when they go to work with a surgeon, are they spending time reading papers and getting better about things? And so I landed on something, and being a lover of books, I have a book recommendation. And the one thing that I think makes a rep a great rep is paranoia, healthy paranoia. And so the book I'm going to recommend to everybody is Intel's chairman who changed the company, Andy Grove's book called Only the Paranoid Survive. And hear me out. I'm not talking about crippling paranoia, but if you're a little bit paranoid, when I was a rep, I realized that things go wrong when you get comfortable. And as a rep, you're getting paid, so you show up. You don't have to do any heroics. There are some days that you have to be a hero, sure. But for the most part, you show up and everything goes smooth, and it's like you weren't even there. And I think that when reps exercise a healthy level of paranoia, they're disciplined, they get stay on top of things, they're self-aware, you know, they pay attention to everything going on in their account, from the surgeon to the circulating nurse to everything. And I feel that at least the best reps that I ever worked with, they all had a sense of healthy paranoia. They were on top of it. And just to kind of, you know, put a sort of dot on this, even I think when you extend this to your personal life, for me, I have a little healthy paranoia when it comes to my marriage. My wife loves me. Any of you met her, you know that. She's absolutely head over heels in love with me. But every single week, I have to ask myself, am I doing enough to make my wife happy? Have I had a deep conversation with her? Have I taken her out for a date? Have I done something sweet and surprised her? Have I done something to help around the house? Because at the end of the day, I think mistakes happen when you get a little comfortable and you just start phoning it in. So that was like my one thing. Feel free to use the marriage advice for the
All
newly
right.
married.
Tiger Buford, you mentioned something earlier. You want to talk about that a little bit, Tiger?
Yeah. Let me find my. I'm back.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, so I've never been a rep. I'm an engineer, but I've been in cases all over the world. And the best reps I always saw were problem solvers. They would go find a competitive product to solve a problem in the operating room in 2 seconds. And I've seen heroic reps save a case. And so and I think we're talking about service here. So I was going to ask Ira,
Yeah.
you know, there's reps wear a lot of hats. And if you're talking about selling, that's one aspect that's different than servicing. And I think what we're talking about here is servicing. And my number one thing I've seen is problem solving.
Yeah. Very interesting. Bill Dubiel, service, contributing, and welfare of others. I think that was covered a little bit now. I'm going to go back to my slideshow for a second. All right. From whom have you learned the most from? From whom have you learned the most from? Give us some.
Simple. Yeah, it's simple for me, Ira. It's the surgeons that I've worked with for 32 years. And I thought about this question, and of course, Kevin Brown, there's some of us have been around a long, long time, but I'm hoping that there's some young reps listening to this. And we all have different phases in our career. And early in my career, I was fortunate to have one veteran total joint surgeon that really took me under his wing. And so early in my career, I learned an awful lot from him, and I could use him as a sounding board. And then over time, as I developed relationships, you develop more surgeons that you trust, and they allow you the opportunity to ask them questions and learn from them. And so, later on in my career, I'm still learning. I mean, 32 years, and I don't know everything, and I'm still asking my surgeon customers questions as things are changing all the time. So I think, someone said intellectually curious, and I think being intellectually curious in surgery, after surgery, knowing the right time to ask questions is super, super important. But by and large, I think probably most of us in this business would agree that our surgeon customers are probably the people that we've learned the most from. At least that is for me.
We got some agreement on the panel here. Scott?
Yeah, I mean, clinically, definitely all the surgeons, and just I think the valuable thing is going to different operating rooms and not just seeing your customers that you see all the time to learn different techniques. And Kevin, you might speak to this. In one of your podcasts, there was a surgeon that made it a point to go and visit other surgeons who are high volume and productive. Was that Andrew Klein who likes to go do that? I can't remember. But I think that's super valuable for us reps to do too, just to see how they run their day to day. And one thing that kind of came to mind is that the national sales meetings or these different training events when new products or techniques come out, I'm always amazed by some people that I know are top-notch reps that have done very well from themselves. And every once in a while, they'll be going through some stuff and they'll just ask questions that really make you think about the whole strategy of how you're talking to your customers in a different way. Like they know how to frame the question with the problem that this product or this technique is trying to address in such a way to get the surgeons to be more curious about it and kind of reframe the conversation to where the surgeon thinks he's coming up with this problem to solve the solution, but the rep's actually making it more obvious to him. And so some people are just kind of brilliant like that with figuring out different strategies to frame the conversation and have these conversations with these surgeons that can be sometimes a little bit intimidating for reps, especially if you're younger and don't have the experience to have those conversations.
Yeah. What do you think, Kevin?
That's a great question. I've been thinking about it. And Scott, to your point, I think it was Dr. Wickline that said that he liked to make field trips like that. That resonated with me as well. If you accept the premise that the journey from here to there is going to have to necessarily involve change, right? If I envision myself as being successful over there somewhere, and that's going to have to involve me changing. So as I ponder this, the person that's probably been the most influential for me, I know this is weird, but it was every difficult person I've ever worked with, from the scrub tech who threatened to shove a laser pointer into a part of my body, to the surgeon who threw an osteotome at me early in my career, to the purchasing people that honestly, it was just painful to spend 2 minutes with them. They were so hostile. But as I look back on it, and don't make the mistake of being young and taking everything personal, right? But looking at each one of those moments as an opportunity to change and get better so that next time I'm prepared for that difficult situation incrementally. I think that's been huge for me, is each one of those difficult situations. It's actually been the best thing that ever happened to me.
It brings up the next slide.
Can I say something, Ira, on that?
Oh yeah, sure. Beth?
I just have to pipe in because I've always been in marketing. I've never been an ortho device rep, but all of you were my lifeline. And when I came into orthopedics, having been a lifelong device marketing person and not in case coverage, it was all of you who taught me, Bryan, I'll pick on you, because bringing me in the field, teaching me, bringing me in the OR, and the incredible admiration I have for what you do every day taught me as a marketer because I didn't know what it was like to do that. And so I just want to pass that on to all of you.
That's
Well,
great.
thank you. Thank you.
So what percentage of the time, I'm getting kind of down and dirty here, the surgeon cannot do the case without you there?
Hmm.
Product specific, right?
You could be product specific. You could be it not only just product, it could be the tech, the surgeon not having a good tech, and you have to help out the tech, or you have to help out central sterile. I'm not saying the surgeon can't cut. I'm saying they can't do the case. So I'm expanding the episode. So you're not dissing on the surgeon necessarily. It's just, sometimes the surgeon's doing the case and needs you. What percentage? Because it speaks to the idea of what has often been talked about of people trying to do repless surgery. And I was quoted many times when I came out with a post that I don't want repless surgery. I want jetless surgery. I want the CEOs to not fly around in 27 jets and share the money with the reps. So I want jetless surgery, not repless surgery.
I can get behind that. I can get behind that.
A few years ago, I was at LSI on a panel about this topic because the person who led the panel was convinced that like in a certain amount of time there'll be no reps. And I feel like the thing about why surgeries are not going to go repless is that the rep, again, a great rep provides a lot of value beyond just the product, aside from the fact that they've seen thousands of different iterations of that procedure and providing that feedback. And yeah, I think, but at the same time, I feel like I think reps have to get a little bit more innovative on how they think about our industry. Our industry has been behind and still is in a lot of different places. And I think that one of those reasons why is we don't do a good job looking outside of our industry to see like, well, how is it done in tech or in software or in the food industry and everything. And I think that's why there's this concept where you have like one rep supporting all these cases, and it's just not a scalable model. Because like what happens when like that rep is sick one day, right? You're just not going to do the case, and that's going to affect the patient. So I think there has to be better ways to train people as backups and empower the hospital staff, train the surgeons, and everything, so that it's not just this one linchpin. And I think a lot of reps love that feeling, but it's not scalable, and I think it's personally very selfish. So.
Well, I think it's also partly a defense mechanism. When I first started and took over one of the accounts that they routinely did total joints with the rep not being there, the staff put the stickers on the paper, they faxed it in, they were on autopilot. But me being the new rep and taking over in that area, I wanted to establish relationships and learn and just kind of be present. And that was right before the MIS stuff started, and then things got more complicated, and there's new widgets and everything like that. And I think that as time has gone by, it's a defense mechanism in that we're so entwined with the inner workings where it's kind of protecting your business to be so involved where the cases can't go on without you. And the surgeons feel dependent and the staff feels dependent, which, again, to Omar's point, it's a good feeling. It makes you feel important to the process. But at the end of the day, if you're wrapped up doing that over and over, there's only so much bandwidth that you can do where you're going to max out what you can make. And it's just not going to be good for your future earning potential. And that's kind of why I'm blessed to be partnered up with Stu. He kind of changed my mindset and what could be possible with the future, and trying to have a little bit more freedom with that, and not having to necessarily work with surgeons you don't want to work with that are maybe not as efficient, or accounts that are a little bit more higher maintenance that's not sustainable. But it's definitely an interesting situation.
It's great. Well, Lara just sent me a text. I'm assuming she wants me to ask the question. What's the difference between a case covering kind of emotional support rep and the industry, for lack of a better word, but it's a great term. Um, believe me, there are times in a revision I remember my looking to my rep and him giving me, we're looking at each other like, what are we doing here? You know, it's kind of a good feeling. I got a desperado partner in the room with me. But versus the industry sales specialists that partners with surgeons to introduce new innovations, that so you wear two hats, your outcomes, something like Active Braid or Mako or Rosa, whatever, or Corin or Omni or whatever the flavor of the day is, and you have to introduce that, but you also have another role of being sort of supporting the OR and being part of the OR team. Do you guys play both those parts, or is it really
I
one or
think it's interesting because there are some reps who cover maybe 2 to 4 hospitals and 2 to 4 surgeons. And these are people who do really heavy lifting. I mean, they're dealing with trays and sterile processing, and they're an integral partner of that physician's network and the hospital. And then there's a different kind of rep sometimes, or there's a different role that maybe some reps who are multi-talented can also carry, which is, covering maybe a broader geography and really influencing adoption of new technologies and innovations. So I think that's an interesting question.
what do you think? Some comments from anybody in the group. Tiger,
I,
yeah.
I,
Oh,
I
anyway.
think I think if you're going to be successful in this job, there has to be a peacemaker side to your personality. I've seen reps go into a room and things go sideways, and they throw gas on the fire and they start digging that hole even deeper. And I've seen others that are just the masters of being able to bring everybody's blood pressure down, to what y'all talked about before, that MacGyver person that says, here, we're going to try to figure this out, and to just kind of keep everybody going the same direction. Now, not every OR needs that type of thing, but some people are more excitable than others, and I think that's a valuable role. And so, to Laura's point, I think you do need a little bit of both. We talk about it, being a partner, not a peddler, and bringing these technologies to surgeons and doing the industry side of things. But there is a huge psychological component to what we bring into the OR, of keeping the staff going the same direction, keeping the surgeon. And it really, you find out what you've got, not when everything's going great, right? It's when an instrument that's mission critical fell on the floor. I've seen reps that immediately start blaming someone in operations that did this, which is the wrong thing to do in that situation. So I think it's a huge part of our armamentarium as to how we can manage that and keep everybody happy.
Yep. Other thoughts about that?
So, Ira, just to jump in to
Yeah.
go back to the number one question, Tiger and Dennis both just answered to go along with exactly what KB just said. The rep in the room needs to have problem solving skills and help and be detail oriented enough to keep everybody else on task, but they also have to be personable enough that they don't come across as they're trying to boss everybody around.
Mhm.
Right.
Good
And
point.
how often you feel the pressure to sell up something? There's a lot of talking about selling up, oh, use this, use that. Is that a pressure, or is that you think that turns certain? I mean, it used to turn me off, It usually happens in sports medicine, you know.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
do it.
Because I think the other side of it that you have to consider is that it comes down to finding a way to like increase lifetime value of that customer. The thing that reps don't take into account is that when you do that, if you're successful, great, you increase lifetime value. But if you're not, then you lose business. And it's much more difficult to go and replace that business than to focus on the main thing, which is to say, hey, let me focus on delivering extraordinary customer support and success and value. And then I think once you establish a certain level of relationship, you can have a more honest conversation with the surgeon to try and expand your business. But there has to be like there has to be a economical and clinical justification for that. And again, a lot of reps, they lean too much on the fact that like, oh, you know, Dr. So-and-so really likes me a lot and we play, you know, we play golf together, or like, you know, we go to lunch, or I know their wife or their husband or whatever. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, establishing that trust is important. And then from there, if you have trust, you have the respect to give a justifiable reason as to, hey, like, here's why you can expand into this line. And maybe even part of that is just say, like, look, you love my support. If we expand into these other products, like, you're going to get even more of my support and more of the things that I'm good at. Right. But I think that's a big consideration. And at the very least, if that's not possible, the other thing that reps do not do, they're not good at asking for more business from other places. So maybe talking to that surgeon and saying, hey, do you know someone else in the area? Can you introduce me to this person? There's nothing wrong, I think, with doing that if it's appropriate.
To Omar's point there, I think it depends on the foundation of the house, right? If it's commission breath that's driving this, then you better be careful with that. I was doing some consulting work in Nashville with a GPO, and a rep was found getting $10,000 for a total knee at a hospital, upcharging them on everything, and they didn't know any different until that GPO came along and put the microscope on him. And he looked like a criminal to them after that. He never did recover from it. On the other side, though, if you're showing something that genuinely brings value that could be helpful to that patient or to that surgeon, and maybe it costs more, but again, commission breath's not driving it, I think you're safe on first with that.
Great. Bill Dubio, you want to ask your question or you want me to ask it for you, Bill?
Yeah, I'm just generally curious from the surgeon's perspective. We, of course, hearing what makes a great rep, and I don't discount anything that they've said. I think it's all very appropriate. But from a surgeon perspective, it seems like relationships become important over time. But is there ever a reason why a surgeon would switch? And if so, what would be the conditions that make that happen? Because I don't see that happening often from my experience.
I have Joel Mallon there. Joel, you want to try to answer that question?
Sure. I think we tend to be in relationships with our sales colleagues. It's much like a marriage, you know, and I think it's anticipatory. You know what I'm going to need. You're ready for what I'm going to need in the OR. I've actually followed my reps. My reps have changed companies, and I've followed behind them once I could. And they were out of a non-compete clause. So I think that people, you know, you tend to stay with people who do the right thing for you. And unless you do something not the right thing in some situation, or have several stumbles, we're probably going to stick with you after years. You know, Bob Booth, you remember Bob used to say that the sales guys were the unpaid employee of the hospital. And it just made no sense why the hospital would want to kick sales reps out of the OR. And it's sort of a crazy concept when you think of it that way. And, you know, you guys run around and get the other tray and you go, oh, I need a bigger this, or I need another one of those, or the liner, you know, the OR wrappers were ripped. Like, let me go get the next tray, you know, like the OR nurses aren't doing that so quickly. They're doing all the other charting these days on the computers.
Kevin Plancher's on. Kevin, you want to make a comment on that a little bit? Sorry to put you on.
So, no, it's okay. Good evening, all. I would say that I'm very thankful to my reps. I hate the word reps. I want to call them, they're my partners. The success of my operation today in 2024 is 100% dependent on the rep, and it is about relationships, and I won't change for it, because he's there or she's there for me, and they're there for the patient. I think the interesting comment I'd like to make as a surgeon is when I started, and I am old, we were not allowed reps in the room because the nurse knew what they were doing. That is not the case today. And so that is a deficiency, I think, for us, Ira, in where and thank God they filled the mold, but there was no need. And in fact, I trained in Boston, it was not permitted to have a rep in the room because if you did have a rep, that was felt the surgeon was incompetent and all you needed was a nurse. But today, I'm thankful for the relationships that I have with that, and I welcome them. And they know they better speak up. But I would turn to my reps. I'd love to know, Ira, is how do we help the younger ones to get to the point of the Kevin Browns of the Bill, to everyone that's on this panel of yours? Because I find that growth curve, now maybe because I'm old, takes too long and they don't stay around, some of the young ones today. And I'd love to hear at some point, Ira, if you'd allow me to, so I can guide the younger reps to become what this panel is.
So
But thank you.
was one of the questions, Kevin, that I had tonight. So you anticipated it.
Okay, Johnny.
Advice to fresh new ortho reps. So let's flip for a second on that. By the way, I wanted to give my 2 cents in as I still identify as a surgeon. So I'd sort of like to say that I'd still like to say that just if we go out to dinner, just don't order any Avamed wines. I can't have Avamed wine. So actually I have a wine locker at the local steakhouse, and when if I go out with a rep, I actually supply the wines. Just because I will not drink Avamed wines. So let's go with Kevin's question. Really important. Okay. Advice to fresh young reps now. Fresh young reps. Just, they're coming in. You've had this relationship, and
How much time do you got?
Where do you start?
Well, I could start with when I see this all the time with young reps. You're not the focus in the room, and I see a lot of nervous chatter. And I've coached many of my reps over the years that when you go into the room for the first time or second time or 10th time, you're still new. Stop with the nervous chatter. You're not the focus. The focus is the patient, and the focus is your surgeon customer. Okay, so that would be one. Introduce yourself when you walk into a room. Tell the circulator who you are. It seems very obvious, but there are many reps that don't do that. And this is something that's developed over time, I think, but some people are much better at it than others right out of the gate, is you really have to learn how to read a room. You have to know that during cementing a total knee, this is not the time to start chatting with the scrub tech or making time with the circulator. So some tidbits, but I think very important things that young reps really need to pay attention to, and it'll serve them well, as they grow in their careers, I guess.
Excellent. Someone else, and then I want to pass it on to Mike Redler, who has some thoughts about this.
I would say, as a woman leader from industry, I have had the opportunity to mentor many young reps as I've carried the bag myself. And I think one of the most important messages is really not just being there and doing all this hard work, but also really understanding the needs and what the surgeons you're working with, what their goals are, so that instead of trying to sell them something because you have a quota, you are really trying to help them to find solutions to problems that they're facing every day.
Atlas. Are you there? Are you finished, Laura?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Michael Redler. Mike, yeah, unmute. Oh, I think I just lost Redler. All right. So someone else on new reps.
I've got something here, Ira. and it's directly to what Dr. Plancher threw out there. Right now I'm looking at Zeke down here on the floor, and one thing I know that if I leave him alone in my house unsupervised, I'm going to have an open floor plan pretty soon. And I think that's what's happening to way too many young reps because the teams are busy, the team lead, it's the tyranny of the urgent. Nobody's doing anything wrong, but these reps are just put onto these teams and they're left to figure it out. And that's not the way it was when I first started. I had a mentor and I had somebody keeping me out of trouble for the first 5 years. And I think that's missing. The second point, and I'll bring, is that we're looking at a completely different generation now. We got people my age that are running sales, and they're trying to motivate these younger kids with some of the things that motivated us, and they're not motivated by that. They don't care about money. They don't care about trappings of success and a title and all that stuff. It's experiential, it's community based. They want to feel like they're part of something, and that familial thing, right? So it's going to require a whole clean sheet of how we manage
About
next
what
generation. So
I do.
Yeah.
All right. Ira, I'm unmuted if it's
Oh,
your
there you
opportunity.
are. There you are. Michael Redler.
The legend is here.
Hey, this is actually a subject that I have great passion about because
I just
I
wait
see.
before you go on, Mike. Are you out to dinner with a rep right now? I just want to know that because you're in a nice
I may have
restaurant.
just given a lecture. I may be in South Carolina. I can either confirm or deny.
Okay.
At any rate,
thank you.
at any rate, it's something I have great passion about because you see these issues around the country where they're trying to not have reps in the room, and it's a huge mistake because a good rep is such an important part of the surgical team, and the ultimate goal is to get great patient outcome. And their knowledge and expertise is great. What makes a great rep? One, you have to have the right stuff. What's the right stuff? You need to know the pathology. You need to know the terminology. You need to be able to talk the talk. You need to be in the room and giving good advice. Good advice can come from anybody. And if you're watching the screen and say, hey, I think those sutures are going to get tangled, or hey, you may want to use a different tap, that's great. If it's a rep that's looking at their phone the whole time in the OR, that's not great. But a great rep is going to know how to get his products used, is not going to shove it down your throat, but at the same time is going to have interest and lead to great patient outcome. And in that situation, the rep is an invaluable part of the team. And I value every time that I've got great reps in the room. And there's a lot of great role models out there that fill all of that criteria.
Omar, you had a few comments?
Yeah, no, I agree with Kevin. I think it's a two-sided problem, I feel. On one side, compared to even 10 years ago, medical sales is a lot more difficult, a lot more complicated. And so you can't just hire reps and then say, oh yeah, like here's your quota, go figure it out. One of the frustrations I've had, and many of you know Matthew Ray Scott, we've talked about this, is that the people who are actually least interested in investing in education and training are like senior leadership. And I feel like there's that, like I see this across the industry, which is senior leadership who's making good money. They got there for a certain reason. They think that the same rules apply when they were reps to now, and it's just not true. So there's a lack of structure and investment in younger reps. And so it's not surprising when you see younger reps just say, after you're like, yeah, screw this, I'm not dealing with this, and they jump to another company or a completely different industry. Because today you have the internet, you have exposure to all these industries versus even 10 years ago. You couldn't really get online and see what it was like to be in software or in aviation or these other industries. And I think on the other side with young reps is that a lot of young reps, and everyone keep in mind, I'm kind of an older millennial, I'm 38, but I can relate to this. They're just not patient. Everybody wants to get in, everybody wants to make a lot of money, and they want to live this great life and have vacations, everything. You can't have it all. It just doesn't work that way. I think there's a time in place where you have work-life imbalance so that you can have work-life imbalance in a certain way later on in life. So earlier in my 20s, and I think many people can relate to that, you work really, really hard. Like you don't have much of a social life. But then as you get older, if you're more successful, then, now most of my time is actually spent with my family. I'm not killing myself all the time. So I think it's a two-sided problem on there.
I'd like to, this is the fastest uh, topic session we've had in the longest time. It's already 8:52. I want to combine two questions that were asked. One was by Danny Goel, who many of you know from Precision OS, really a leading virtual reality orthopedic company. And it also came from a question from Beth Best. Beth asked, why do you think you stay in the industry? I'm going to ask all of you about this. Why do you think you stay in the industry for so many years? This is Beth's question. What is it that keeps so many device reps this lifelong career and how demanding it is? And then Danny came across with, why is there so much turnover in the industry? So you guys have been in it and you're not leaving, but there is a lot of turnover in the industry, apparently. So I'm going to start with Scott. Sorry, Scott.
No, that's all good. So why I've stayed in the industry for so long is just I always love learning new things, new challenges, and just always finding new ways to become more efficient. And it's just once you've been in it this long, it's just kind of addictive for me anyway. But as far as like the turnover with the reps, I think the problem that a lot of people in the industry are facing, surgeons, reps alike, is just the decreasing reimbursement, the decrease in average sales price and commission, and especially in the bigger orthopedic companies, they hire younger reps and they're kind of put through the ringer and they are promised some different raises and progression and stuff, and it just a lot of times doesn't materialize because there's not enough juice left to squeeze out to kind of get them to where they need to be. So they're busting their butt working 60, 70 hours a week or more and just don't see the progress of getting up to the next level where they'd like to be. And so they move on. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Bryan, what do you think? You've been in that game for a while. Why do you stay? Why have you stayed? And why is there so much turnover?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So for me personally, the reason I stay is I'm good at it. I mean, it's something that I enjoy, and if you really enjoy what you do, you don't really feel like you're working. And although it is hard work, I've stayed in it for that long because I really enjoy orthopedics. I enjoy spine. I enjoy foot and ankle. I enjoy all of these different specialties. I'm doing some work in pain now as well. And I think like what Scott said, I like to learn and I'm always learning in this industry and being in this business. And, quite frankly, I'd be lying if I told you I haven't made a nice living. I mean, we work to provide for our families, and it has provided me with a fabulous living, and I've been able to support 4 kids and raise 4 kids working in this industry for 32 years. And so for me, it's just it's what I do and it's what I like to do. And as far as the turnover goes, and I think Scott mentioned this as well. Some of these younger guys, I literally just talked to a guy today. I was shocked to hear that he had left. He had left Smith and Nephew Sports Medicine, and he's now working in women's health, completely different area. And I asked him why. I hoped he would call me because I would hire this guy, but he just said that he was not moving up. He was not moving up the ranks of the company in the fashion and the time that he felt he was should have been awarded. So he basically just left 2.5 years, and now he's gone. So I think I think there's something to be learned there for senior guys like myself and senior leadership. Like, we better be taking care of these young people. You spend this time, money, and effort training them. They better be, experiencing the goals that they want to experience as they go on in their careers. So that's part of the turnover reason, I think.
Excellent. Let's move on to Omar, and then we're going to have Kevin bring us home.
Yeah. So
Why do you think reps have stayed? The long-standing reps for a long time, and where's the turnover?
So the long-standing reps, I think it's two-part. One is the fact that you get a lot of fulfillment in this industry. I went into software for a little bit, lots of money. I just didn't really care, right? You get a lot of fulfillment. I think that's one. The other side of it is that it's kind of an ugly truth is that for a lot of these reps, if you think about it, and this is kind of dovetails into why they're leaving, when you spend so much time traveling in between cases, you're spending all this time in the OR, all these things, you really don't have a lot of time to see sort of what else is out there. And at the same time, there's a sunk loss fallacy where you get so used to doing all these things. You're putting so much physical and spiritual emotion into it that this is after a few years, kind of like all that you know. And it's very difficult to say, like, oh, yeah, like all of this energy I put in, not just in terms of product. You go sell software, you just need to learn the product. That's it, to be honest, in the market. But as a rep, you got to learn how the hospital works, every single title, pathology. Like there's so much. And so when you spend so much time learning all these things, you kind of don't want to depart from that. Now, why are reps leaving the industry? I think part of it is just burnout. It's really hard these days to tell somebody like, hey, you're going to spend all this time away from your family, or if you're a single person, you're not going to have time to like work out or do these things. And, you're going to make like 80 to 100K a year starting out. Like it's a hard sell. And so I think that's one of the main reasons why some people leave is that they just get, really, really burned out, really burned out. And I think there's a time in this industry, I'll say this last thing and I'll let it go. I think there's a time in this industry where, you can make a significant amount of money, and it's just at that level, it's like, well, okay, well, who cares about the stress and all this that I'm dealing with? I'm making really good money. When you start out as a rep these days, depending where you work, definitely not the case. And for a lot of people, they're like, yeah, this is not worth the stress. So that's my 2 cents.
I also, before I call on Kevin to bring us home, I just want to ask Tiger to make a couple of comments because he talked about why many leave. Tiger, you available to make a couple of comments?
Yeah. Like I said in the comments, I think there's a lack of agency. A lot of 20 somethings get it. I've written articles about how I'm 25. I'm the luckiest person in the world, working in sales and medical devices. And then 30 in your 30s, I'm 35. I've got more product lines. I got more customers. Things are going great. I'm making a ton of money. Then in your 40s, it's like, wait a minute, they just pulled the product out from under me. There's rug pulls and acquisitions and they cutting my commission. This is getting really hard. And then in 55, you start shrinking your territory down and they literally go into survival mode. And as a recruiter, I talk to a lot of these, people that have been through 3 or 4 major wars and they've got scars and they're like, I just got to survive for 10 more years, but it's no fun anymore. And so I think most people are looking for a agency. They're looking for a control of their life and a control of their time, and they don't get that anymore. I think there's less autonomy than there used to be. That's what I see.
All right, Kevin, you want to bring us home? We're at 9:01, but we will because this is rep time. We are the case is going a little late tonight.
Turnover, and then I want to leave us with some positive note on that. I think you've got an ADHD generation. I have talked about this on the show before. I think it's a superpower. It just has to be managed. But you get somebody with ADHD, they can crush it in this job. It's just every kite needs a string, right? They need a string in their life. And when you're not managing these reps and they're all just kind of freestyling and free range, it's not good. It's a recipe for them falling off the ride. I think that certain medical training programs are creating expectations for this job that are not in line with reality. And they think that they're going to come out of training and make a certain amount of money, and this is going to be their work-life balance. And then they find out that's not true. Their dreams are shattered, and they're out the door in a year. So managing expectations, I think, is a huge deal. We've talked about the 3 kind of reps on the show: the undertakers that complain about everything, and the caretakers that are just there to punch a clock and do their job and leave. They're getting thrown off the ride because this is not an easy job anymore. That you could be an average rep 20 years ago and still be crushing quota and doing amazing and think you were a lot better at this thing than you really were. Those days are over. It's a lot harder. We're being held up to a higher scrutiny, which is a huge opportunity for the entrepreneurial rep with small business mindset. I call them the overtaker reps. They're surgeons that are coming out of the woodwork with this mindset. I think they go to a meeting like AUKUS and they see all these changes going on they see opportunity. They see an amazing way to stand out, to differentiate with all the other caretakers out there. I think they're going to crush it, and we're not seeing turnover on that end. But again, if we're seeing it just that our job is just there to cover cases and put together trays, it's not going to end well.
Yeah. So I'd like to say we're out of time for now. 2025, I think we're going to have a couple more rep talks on the Joey open mics. I do want to remind everybody again that on the Joey site, and I'll bring this up if I could do it. Hold on a second. But don't hold on a second. There is this Joey Expert Connect, which we just started. I just want to repeat that. You could become an expert in this. We do focus groups for industry. And when you click on this, it brings it in. And then there's even a box for orthopedic medical device rep. So if you're interested in that, or you have young reps who are interested, people want to know what you have to say. And I'm so thankful for everyone tonight for giving their time. Bryan, for rushing over, coming in from a case. Thank you. Everyone was very busy tonight. Appreciate everyone's comments. This was really one of the superb Joey topic sessions. We are a journal, but we are a connector, and we take these topic sessions seriously. This is recorded and will be within 2 days, probably within tonight. We'll be on the Joey website and on the Joey YouTube. I use editor's license to take out a few comments that I feel need to be taken out, but they're usually my comments that have to be taken out, not anyone else's. And I just want to thank everyone tonight for coming on board. All right. Thank you.